The first Descendant, we've been playing it. I don't think we've gotten 80 hours. How far are we? I don't know if we're 80 hours in this at the moment. We find out. 63 hours. So, Paul, you guys don't follow this guy. I think he writes for like IGN. He writes for one of the big gaming articles. I don't want to be. I write about gaming TV for Forbes. Ooh, sorry, Paul. That's super disrespectful to say IGN. Much more sophisticated, much more respectable credentials, Forbes over IGN. But Paul makes good videos. I appreciate his videos. And just as I want you to pretend that we have a cool animated intro to our stream, I want you to pretend to have a cool animated intro to his video.
Alright, I am back with another first Descendant video because I'm not playing anything else. I have played this for
I feel
80 hours now in the last 2 weeks. I think tomorrow marks 2 weeks of its launch. I've gotten a lot of questions about, I talk about like why I like it a lot, but like in terms of like what am I actually doing in this game where I'm playing this much. One of the positives I relayed is that there is always something to do. And you kind of set your own goals of what you're working toward, and there are like overall goals of, you know, I want to farm all the hard bosses and get through all of these guys. Like that's fine, and like I'm getting there eventually, sort of. But there's also just like a laundry list of things you can work on in terms of what you're farming, what you're trying to upgrade with these characters, and so on and so forth. So I'll talk about kind of what I've been doing the past week here, where my original farm here for the most recent character has been for Blair, who is a fire guy, and the reason I was farming for him is because I do not have any fire guys, and in some instances you sort of need a fire guy to activate certain farming things. So I went for Blair, and
He's talking
so
about
far
like the
he's
crystals
okay.
or whatnot.
I've heard
Makes
he's
sense.
like not the best to get him to. No, he's
I wish he was more. I wish
He's
he was
getting
more.
One of the reasons I farmed him is because
I wish he was more. I mean, like I wish he did more damage. I wish he had like a better area of effect. I understand mods can help that, but if it's still shit, they're just helping shit.
getting his materials is not like some really elaborate thing. You're essentially running 4 different strikes to get each of his pieces, and that sounds very easy because this has a 20% drop rate per thing. I got 2 of them on the first try, and then this one specifically took me at least 15 runs, which again, it's just RNG, but it can feel very frustrating. I had a Freyna piece that also took me 15 runs to get, so it can be frustrating. So what I would kind of do is I would do maybe like 2 runs with a character, usually Bunny, because Bunny's so fast.
Yeah.
And then I would take a break and go farm something else, because like just running it like 10 times in a row, like you're gonna go insane. So I
True.
took a break. Eventually I got him. I crafted him.
have
It
a
took
couple things to
friggin'
do.
16 hours or whatever it does. But I did get him, and now I have 1 fire guy. I decided to
I really think there's
go
only one.
for new character, another guy. I only have 1 guy, and the rest are girls right now. I went for
We should be getting a new character in August. My money is that the character is going to be another waifu female, since this is a Korean developed game, and we know that they know what sells. You know what I'm saying?
or what's his freaking name?
So I do wish there was a way that when you're choosing the descendants, you had a male and female version of the counterpart that do the same exact thing, just 2 different models for it. But that's asking a lot. There's so many different descendants right now.
Well, let's find out. Oh, Enzo. So I've heard he's pretty good. I know I was seeing Glad play, and Glad unlocked him and says he's one of his favorite characters. I had a couple of his pieces already, and I know that you need him to do a bunch of like specific ancient vault farming things, and you need ancient vault farming things in order to craft some of the most important items in the game, like namely the things that require you to upgrade your character. You need a lot of materials from these vault things, and Enzo is like the main dude for doing those.
Enzo's a beast. I love Enzo.
There are some sort of obnoxious things that happens when you farm these characters. Some of these farms just get insanely convoluted to
And
the point
repetitive.
where it's just a little exhausting.
Yeah.
So for instance, when I was
For sure.
farming,
For sure. Yep.
you need all these different pieces. The ones here, you can farm a bunch of places, and it's not really
Yeah,
that
like
big of a
the
deal. But
silicon,
the individual
like
blueprint
all of this
stabilizers,
stuff.
whatever,
all the blue
those
stuff.
take more work. So something like this,
And
you
I
need to do.
I hate that. Like you see all of this. It's like Pyromaniac, Hangman, normal. so many of these things, it's hard to find stuff in hard, especially when you want, like now after the end game, like everything we're gonna do should be on hard mode. All of this, none of this should be restricted from normal and hard. It should just be this location, this mission.
Void fusion reactor at this specific base. That gives you it's like a 38% chance to get it, whereas like some of these other ones might be like 6%. So you kind of have to find the ones that are going to give you the highest percent. So theoretically, you have to farm them less. You need this thing. This is, you know, the equivalent of an engram essentially, and it'll tell you where to get that engram. So this thing is essentially like a public event, and you have a 20% chance of getting it. And then in this instance, you can get a second one if you infiltrate the mission without being seen. Great. Okay, fine. I can do stealth. No, you can't do stealth. You can only do stealth
With Sharon.
on one character. And that is Sharon, who has an invisibility move where you go invisible, you sneak into the space, you deactivate one or two little things, you run and hide, you wait for your cooldown, and then you run back. You do this until that 20% chance actually procs. So then you have the material. So first of all, you have to farm an entirely separate character
Yep,
to make
you have
this
to have
work.
a whole extra character.
Then
I found this out too. When you're doing the void reactors or the void fragments, and you have to go around the different parts, and there's some of these like black looking destiny like spheres or like monoliths with like a circle in the center, or a cube, and you have to go and destroy these things. And the only way you could do it is with the an ability that your descendant has, but it can't just be any descendant. It has to be the descendant that has the ability that can affect that void fragment. And you might go up to one where it's like, hey, this can only be dealt with frozen damage. Do you or your friends have Viesa? Oh no? You guys weren't working on grinding Viesa? Oh, guess what? Your grind has stopped. What you wanted to do has stopped because now you have to work on something completely different. And to me, that takes out any of the fun and the drive of coming back and going on a straight grind because nothing seems too linear, right? Because you could be working on something and then all of a sudden you're like, man, the most efficient path to this is me with a completely other descendant. Now I have to do something completely different for. It's just a little convoluted.
you need to farm up a different material. You need to farm up organic void shards and monomer void shards from this activity. This is just like 2 waves of enemies, but it requires a fire guy. And if you do not have a fire guy, you have to farm a fire guy. So I had to farm
exactly what I was
Blair
see what I'm talking about?
specifically to do this thing. You can find these materials other places with other characters, and you get more of them in hard mode, which I have unlocked, but it's a lot more annoying to bounce around between all the different maps. So you farm this with Blair for as much as you need to then run this. And then you take all your materials and go over here, and this is like a little boss fight, and it allows you to decrypt that engram that you got from this. That has a 38% chance to give you the thing you want, and a 38% chance to give you something useless, and a few other percent chances to give you something pretty rare. That is the entire process, and you can fail at any point in these two things where you just don't get the proc for the engram you need. Amorphous material, and then you don't land it here, and it's and this is for one piece, and you have to do this for 3 or 4 pieces. So and I had to farm essentially 2 characters to even start this process. So in that sense, it's a lot more convoluted. Whereas Blair, it was like, run this mission, 20% chance of a drop. But the more you get into, you know, these higher level characters, the more it's going to be, you know, a lot more complicated of things. And this guy, again, these are all hard mode versions of this, which are going to be harder, especially if you're trying to do it with freaking Sharon, who sucks. So it's difficult, shall we say, to farm some of these characters, but it's also kind of a long-term goal. So that's farming new characters and things. However, I've also kind of decided on, is this frozen? Nope, never mind. Okay. I've also decided on what I am viewing as sort of my main. So I have Viesa, I have Bunny, I have Sharon, I have Volby, I have Freyna, and I have Blair. So I've decided that Freyna is going to be the main character I'm investing in. I also have invested a good amount in Bunny, but what does investing in a character look like besides buying a haircut? It involves a number of things. So you want to make a good build. I have a mobbing build for her. I have a bossing build for her, thanks to my friend Moxie, who makes all these builds because he's smarter than me. And so you want to spend time upgrading, you know, investing in the materials to get her specific things up as high as you can. Some of these are shared. You want your increased HP and increased defense across all characters. But for her specifically, you want things like Toxic Specialist to increase her toxic. I mean, she's a toxic character. And then
Built
tech
gamers.
specialist to increase her
That's my shit right
tech
there.
stuff.
I
A
like
lot of her
that.
stuff is tech. And then I farmed specifically this contagion mod, which makes her really good. It's like an AoE explosion of poison, which really elevates
You
her.
get your workout in today?
The boss one mainly revolves around her machine gun thing, where you can extend the duration and damage of it and all this stuff. And I found that very useful for a lot of bosses. But that's only part of this. So another thing is that, let's go to normal here. If I take these away, you see this little symbol here. So you start with 2 of these, and every time you put...
And he's prestiged her at least once, so he's added a slot to it. So the next time that it goes here, it's actually going to decrease the value of the slot, allowing him to be a
matching symbol. See the little symbol here? It will reduce the cost of that by half. And as you can see, these get really high cost eventually. 16, 13... Like, they're very high cost. So toxic specialist goes here. Now it's down from 15 to 8. And then what is my
buddy
other
Josh,
one?
who's just
It was
been
toxic
grinding
one,
Lepic,
right?
will
No, it was
have
increased
like
defense.
the most badass.
That goes
Lepic.
there. That goes from 14, was 14, right? To 7.
Wow,
so
14 to 7.
The way you do that, you can add another one. And that means you can assign a module type.
Yep.
So you can pick one of the symbols and put it there. But to do that, you reset your Descendant level back to 1 from 40. It's essentially like prestiging the character.
Yep.
You need this material to prestige them, which you have to, use those other materials to do. But you reset yourself, and then you essentially, you take another 5, 6, 7 points off of your mods. So that leaves you room for more mods. As you can see where this is going, where you just keep prestiging over, and eventually
1, 2, 3, 4,
all your
5,
mods are
6,
essentially
7,
going to be
8,
half
9,
cost,
10
allowing you to kind of max out this.
Do your character 10 times to get a perfect full thing, and then I think you probably can get 11 or even 12. Imagine.
Board as much as you want with the most powerful mods you want. And then, of course, there is another aspect to this where you want to increase your max capacity, giving you more slots to put stuff in to begin with. I don't think, can you go up again? I don't know if you can go up more than once.
Yeah, you go up once.
I'm not 100% sure. But you can.
And you got to make sure
rename. These are just. I was like, can you rename the character? That's weird.
You could do
so
the
that
energy
is
activator
how
to
you kind of invest a lot into one character. But you can also invest into weapons. So this is the poison-based assault rifle that spreads poison in a different way. And you can also capacity this up, which I have not done yet. But more importantly, you can farm up more versions of this.
So the Fallen
Hope, when you do that, you
farm.
combine them into versions that upgrade their specific stats. So what is details? So you will get, this will give you some information about your abilities, and I'm not sure which exactly will upgrade when you combine them here, but some of these numbers will increase, like proc chance, like damage, whatever, when you combine those. In addition to that, you want to farm up better versions of these. You can see where it says like fire attack, critical damage, bonus firearm attack. Those are all gray. That's bad. You want something like this, which is, the different colors represent how good that perk is. So 11% extra rounds per magazine at baseline, 13% extra critical hit rate. Those are really good stats. So ideally, I want to farm another version of this to hopefully get better stats. And to do that,
you could also re-roll it by going to this bench over here and using a precision weapons readjuster and re-rolling that specific gun.
It's the same process. So you find the weapon, you go to Fallen Hope, you research info, and this does not require insane amounts of crafting materials. Once again, this is just sort of running specific missions to get these pieces, and then you will combine them again, make a new one. Hopefully it's better, and then combine the two together for better stats. And you can do that, I'm not sure how many times. I think 4 times. That's what these little dots are.
Yeah.
You can combine them 4 times. You can only do this with uniques. You can't do it with normal ones. But you can, if you want, you can still farm, better versions of normal weapons. Like Tamer is the really good machine gun right now. As you can see, mine is not that great. It has 3 gray things and 1 blue thing. So I can find out where Tamer is and go farm that. There are some rotating, farms where it's not the same farm every day. So it is, it might not even be available one day, but the point is like it kind of switches locations, so you're not always doing the same thing once. So you see what I'm saying here? Like I just talked for 10 minutes or whatever it is about all the different things I can kind of go for simultaneously, and like I'll farm a little bit of a character, I get bored of that. I'll farm a little bit for a gun,
Yeah.
get bored of that. I'll farm a little bit for materials for power upgrades, something like that. And it's there's
Kinda
always
rinse
something
and
to do,
repeat.
and you can create your own goals. And right now my goal is to pump up Freya a lot, find another character I like as much as Freya, pump them up a lot, and just sort of, ideally I want to unlock all of the heroes here. And one thing I'm not going for are ultimate characters, because those are just the drop rates on these. It's like 3% drop rates for all of the parts, and like you get the sexy bunny skin. Like I don't care. Like these are more powerful. Like at baseline you get more power. I think you get some unique mods, and like that's one of the shitty things about the game, because it definitely does sell power, or it makes the grind just absolutely insane for these. But a lot of this is just ignoring the shitty microtransactions here. The only thing I bought are cosmetic. Across a couple of my characters I like, I've spent some amount of money on cosmetics, which how much money have I spent in Destiny on cosmetics? Like I am okay with that, but I have not bought anything, approaching just paying for power. And buying an ultimate skin is like $100, which is bullshit.
Yeah, no, it's insane.
Again, all of those microtransactions sort of, mirror Warframe, so it's not like this is reinventing the wheel or anything, but that is.
I also am gonna say this, and I know this is gonna sound like a crazy hot take, but I think the microtransactions in this game are fair. I don't think there's anything wrong with any of the microtransactions in this game. Looking at it, I think everything's pretty fairly priced, and the shaders, everyone has them wrong. I took one shader that I had only one of, and I applied it to every single piece that I had on one character, and it worked. I don't know if I'll be able to use that same color or gold on another character, but I totally can use that one same color on one character, which I did not think was possible. So I was totally wrong on that when I brought that up last time.
An aspect of this that to enjoy the game, I think you just have to pretend like this doesn't exist. When you're upgrading things, this is just a separate tip. Don't forget to dismantle your double modules, which will give you, let's see, 40,000 shards at a time.
Not 40,000 shards. It's going to change, but it really does. Like, each one of these modules is like 1,200 Cooper shards. Or I guess, hold on. If we could do math. 71 divided by 4,800. Got it. 41 divided by 4,000. 48,000. Cool. Boom. What does this equal? Maybe the other way around. 48,000 divided by 71. Okay, so it's 676 Kuiper shards per module. So every time you delete one of these modules, it's about 676 Kuiper shards. So just kind of keep that in mind.
So that's very good. Yes.
Also, with these, you don't always have to break them down and dismantle them. You can combine them and try to make a better module itself.
Thank you for that. That's what I'm doing in the game. I find it very, gratifying most of the time. Yes, if you're trying to go for something with a very low drop rate, or you're just missing your RNG chances over and over, it can be frustrating. But guess what? Yeah. That's a looter. That's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
And this feels like something you can kind of turn your brain off and farm when you want to. Yes, there are harder fights eventually where you really will have to kind of lock in. But generally speaking, it's sort of just a leisurely farming game, and you kind of make your own goals. You're always increasing your power to some extent.
Yeah.
And it's enjoyable to me. I get why it might not be enjoyable for other people. I get why it's getting pretty bad reviews from like normal game critics, but I don't know. It works for me. Destiny is launching Act 2 tomorrow, so I will be pausing this obviously to go play that, and I'll have a video about that tomorrow. But yeah, so thanks for watching. Let me know what you're doing if you're playing this. Let me know if you just started and you hate it, and I can maybe give you some advice. But yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Giving Paul a little tip. Hopefully he finds it. Hopefully he sees it. That'd be very nice. Okay, Descendant list. This is what we got working with. Lepic, we got Afrena, we got Blair, Enzo, and then we got Bunny. We still got to level up our Bunny. But Jaber, he's only level 34, so let's go ahead and max him out.